Welcome to Beyond Hindsight. We're looking back, helps us think forward. This is a space for reflection, perspective, and lived experience. A place where personal stories, current events, and past moments are examined for deeper lessons they carry about life, leadership, culture, and identity. If you have a story, a perspective, or a topic you believe deserves to be explored, or if you're interested in being part of a conversation, you can reach me at beyondhindsight.media@gmail.com. I appreciate all of your submissions. For now, though, let us begin with today's topic. Firstly, I would love to offer a quick warning. Today's subject matter will be about pain, fear, heartache, suffering, and one's response to it. Please excuse my somber mood as I have personal ties to the events that we'll be discussing today. It has been 1 month exactly since the devastating fire at Grand Montana on New Year's Eve here in Switzerland, where 40 people died during a New Year's Eve party, 116 were injured, and the whole country started to suffer. Similarly, 13 months ago, the devastating domestic terrorism attack in New Orleans on Bourbon Street, also on New Year's Eve, happened, caused 15 people to lose their lives and 57 to be injured severely. As I said, I have close ties to both New Orleans and Switzerland as a whole. So these two mass casualty events occurred in two locations that I will call my home. My actual home, Switzerland, and my spirit home, New Orleans. I would never have guessed that both of these locations would be hit with such devastation on days that usually are related with revelry, having a joyful time, celebrating, looking forward and ahead to a beautiful new year. I'm recording this podcast to reflect on what this has done, not to me, but to my societies as a whole. What was my reaction to the event? What was the society's reaction to the event? And what stuck with me? I want to take a look back, share it with you, and reflect. First, let me establish the scene. While I heard about the news from New Orleans quite quickly after waking up, because you have to keep in mind that I live in a different time zone, and I was shocked naturally. It did not come as much of a surprise because we all know that the United States of America is suffering at the moment. There's too much crime, too much violence. So personally, whenever I get bad news from the States, the shock effect, I have to say, is not as severe as when it happens in a place that is not used to such severe events taking place and so much widespread suffering because of the actions of certain individuals. So on the 1st of January 2026, I woke up still a little bit in a daze because I was sick during the holidays and I had not recovered fully yet. Made my coffee, started to wake up, drove over to my grandmother to celebrate. I was the first one to arrive, and she greeted me with shock on her face. I did not understand why. I mean, all right, she's almost 91 years old, and she's slowly but steadily on the decline, unfortunately. I did not expect to be greeted with such fear in her eyes, so I asked her grandma what was going on. She just told me, "Darling, haven't you heard?" "Heard what?" "There's been a great fire. A lot of people died. Dozens of people died." "Huh? What are you talking about?" And because she's slowing down and starting to act a little bit more irrational sometimes, firstly, I thought that she must have misunderstood something, or there maybe something happened, but it was in a different place and not in Switzerland. But no. She turned on the news on the TV, and now they weren't speaking about dozens of people dead, but 40. 40 people died. I had not heard about it. I was shocked, taken aback naturally, and I couldn't comprehend it. It felt so different from when it happened 1 year earlier in New Orleans. When I heard about the news from New Orleans, I was like, gosh darn it, it happened again. Why does it have to be my city all the time? But now that it happens so close to home, in my country of origin, where I'm from, where we do not know such events to take place, it hit different. It struck deep down because it was so unexpected, which I thought was horrendous in itself. How had I become so jaded to the bad news from the States? Why do they not cause me that much pain? I've just become so disillusioned. And this stark contrast between my reaction and hearing about Switzerland and hearing about what happened in New Orleans 1 year before caused me to reflect a whole lot. Because it was not only me, but the population as well. Whereas the news in the States had shifted quite quickly to the investigation of whether or not the perpetrator had a radical mindsets that might have influenced him. In Switzerland, it turned into a nationwide panic. It was all over the news for weeks. To this day, widespread outpourings of fear and angst, apprehension, terror, grief, anger, wrath, sympathy, but also hatred for the individuals that were the owners of the bar where the fire took place. And this multifaceted outpouring of a myriad of different emotions left me confused. Just based on the contrast of what happened in New Orleans. In Switzerland, the attention turned, on the one hand, to the victims, but on the other hand, to an outpouring of emotion. It was not directed at anyone or anything, just an outpouring of emotion, which is something that Switzerland is really not known for. So how did I personally react to it? Regarding New Orleans, I traveled to the city. Almost a little more than 1 month after the event, I traveled to New Orleans initially to go watch the Super Bowl, which took place at the Caesar Superdome. But it more so turned into a journey of getting to grips with what had happened. I still remember I arrived on a Sunday with my friend, and on Monday morning at around maybe 6:30 a.m., 7 a.m., those of y'all that know New Orleans that know that Bourbon Street is always busy. But on that Monday morning, it wasn't. It was abandoned. Just the sun, the moisture in the air, my friend and I, calmly and solemnly marching down Bourbon Street until we happened upon the memorial, where we could really feel the emotion that I myself personally could not feel a month before when it actually happened. I saw the memorial pictures, the beads, the flowers, the letters. and I felt the pain. People were gathered around. They talked, they hugged, they spoke with each other, they lit candles. I did not want to impede on their privacy, but I listened. I was present, and I felt their energy. And the stories that they told each other weren't about the pain and the suffering and the fear, but about the lovely experiences they had shared with the deceased individuals, their loved ones, their friends, their colleagues, their fellow humans. The focus had shifted to positivity and memory and celebration what had been before within a month. Whereas here in Switzerland, 1 month later, people are still obsessed with pointing fingers and, unfortunately, also profit. As I said before, terror in New Orleans is nothing new, whereas terror in Switzerland is unknown. The last mass casualty event had taken place in 1965 when 88 people died due to a mudslide during the construction of a dam, severe lack of regulatory oversight regarding the housing of the construction workers. Because of that, they got swept up in the mudslide and perished. Whereas New Orleans knows how to cope with trauma like this, in Switzerland led to a complete loss of face, which in turn developed into widespread activism and the destructive tendencies that society sometimes shows when a profit can be turned. NOLA people grieve, but still continue living their regular lives authentically. Whereas in Switzerland, you had some people on LinkedIn proclaiming their severe suffering and their sympathy and empathy for the individuals that were struck and hurt by the catastrophe in any way, shape, or form, while others quickly and successfully, unfortunately, started up fire prevention consultancy firms or advertised their medication for burn victims. You have to keep in mind, I work in policy and in the healthcare sector, so I had to be witness to a whole lot of hypocrisy, clickbait, false claims, and trying to take advantage of the people that are suffering right now. As I said before, in my mind at least, it was a complete loss of face for a whole lot of people in Switzerland that were talking nonstop about how much they were impacted by the event without actually having been there, without having been exposed to anyone that is injured. And I think this is terrible. And I'm terribly sorry for all the impacted individuals that had to witness this. Well, I want to turn a positive corner here, though. I was absolutely amazed, and I am so proud of all the first responders, the healthcare professionals, the caretakers, the physicians, the emergency medical staff, because there were literally hundreds of impacted individuals, if not thousands, from the families of the victims themselves, bystanders, the responders that got hurt while responding, and literally every single one of them received treatment right away. I was absolutely flabbergasted how quickly and safely Swiss medical staff and psychological staff, emergency staff, first responders, rescuers were able to mobilize, join the scene, help out, work together in a big, strong alliance, and prevent many more deaths and injured individuals. This effort is still ongoing to this day. treatment is still being received. And the fact that a small country like Switzerland is able to cope with such a catastrophe out of nowhere without preparation is an absolute blessing. Our healthcare system, I stand by that, is the best in the world. Even though it's expensive, it's efficient, and it's there when it counts the most. So, what kind of conclusion can we draw from all this? Firstly, mass casualty events impact way more than the victims. A whole society reacts. Whereas some societies are more used to events taking place, like New Orleans, for example, and they're, unfortunately, quite experienced with coping with such grief and terrible catastrophes. Societies like Switzerland, with its blessed community that knows nothing but peace and prosperity, loses face, or is at a risk of losing face, when an unexpected catastrophe occurs. How societies react in grief and channel their pain differs greatly. But no matter where you are or what you do, I think it's absolutely appalling that there are certain individuals that try to profit off of pain and trauma. I want to use New Orleans as an example, though. Quite quickly after I returned back to Switzerland in February, Mardi Gras took place, Carnival. And many of the floats or many of the activities were centered around celebrating the dead, as they usually are in New Orleans, but also celebrating the victims of the attack on New Year's Eve. Somehow New Orleans managed to turn the negativity, the pain, the grief, the fear into a positive, into a sense of community and working together and overcoming pain with each other, with your peers, with your fellow human beings, with your fellow New Orleanians. And in my mind, Switzerland could have done something similar, because keep in mind, our healthcare response was exactly that. It was so beautiful to behold how everyone worked together, stood side by side, shoulder by shoulder, and great things were achieved in unison. Let's use this as a lesson. No matter what catastrophe or event occurs around you, look around you. Look at who's right behind you. Look at who's next to you. Work together. Share your pain. Share your fear. But grab them by the hand. Pull them towards you. And look for a solution together. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. If these reflections resonate with you, you're welcome to subscribe and join me for future conversations. Until next time, think carefully, look deeply, and go beyond hindsight.